We've made it to Tier 5 of the JRPG Iceberg, and I want to start this one off with a game that I know a few of you have been waiting for, Front Mission. Front Mission is a tactical RPG developed by G-Craft and published by Square. It was released on February 24th, 1995 for the Super Famicom. Did we get it in America? Of course we didn't. A remake of the game named Front Mission First was developed by Square Enix and released for the PS1 in Japan on October 23rd, 2003. It included new content and offered a new scenario to play through. Did we get it in America then? Of course we didn't. Front Mission First was ported to the Nintendo DS with even more additional content and was released in Japan on March 22nd, 2007. Did we get it then? Yes, actually, we did, on October 23rd of that same year. Front Mission First received another remake titled Front Mission First Remake and was developed and published by Forever Entertainment for the Switch in late 2022. The game progression in Front Mission proceeds in a linear manner. You watch the cutscene, complete the missions, set up the mechs during intermissions, and then sortie for the next mission. As the player progresses, new locations are revealed on the map. Towns and cities act as intermission points where the player can organize and set up their units for the upcoming mission. Players use playable units called Wunzers, which is a term for mecha derived from the German word Wunderpanzer, or walking tank. Each specific body part of a Wunzer has a specific function and its own health points. Legs enable movement and evasion, arms are necessary to use hand and shoulder weapons, and the body maintains operability. When the body is destroyed, the Wunzer is removed from play completely. Set in the year 2090, the story takes place on Huffman Island, which was created by volcanic activity south of Mexico's west coast in 1995. In 2002, the land was classified as an island and was ceded to the United Nations control, but in 2020, the USN, which is a unification of North and South American countries, made a bid for the control of the island after withdrawing from the United Nations. The Alliance of South Asia, Southeast Asia, and Australia, known as the Oceania Cooperative Union, dispute this claim when the two superpowers colonized the island in 2065. Tensions heat up, and this leads to the first Huffman conflict in 2070, with the island being divided into two halves at the end of the war. Peace is maintained until the Huffman Crisis in 2086, when a series of skirmishes across the island causes chaos. Tensions boil over and war erupts when the OCU is blamed for inciting the Larsis incident on June 3, 2090. The game's main character is OCU Captain Lloyd Clive. A recon platoon led by Lloyd is assigned to investigate a USN munitions plant in the Larsis district located on eastern Huffman Island. When the platoon arrives at the destination, they're ambushed by USN Wunzers, led by an officer named Driscoll. I don't want to get too spoilery here, so you should play the game for yourself. Blue Dragon. Blue Dragon is another game with the golden touch of Akira Toriyama, rest in peace. The game was developed by Mistwalker and Artoon and published by Microsoft for the Xbox 360. Blue Dragon is based on a design by the legendary creator of Final Fantasy, Hironobu Sakaguchi, who also supervised the development and wrote the plot. It was the first game Sakaguchi was in charge of outside of Square Enix. The game takes place in an open-world environment where every year for the past 10 years, purple clouds have appeared in the sky, signaling misfortune and disaster for people across the world. For years, a terrifying beast named the Land Shark and other lost technologies came with the purple clouds, killing thousands of people and destroying villages. The purple clouds arrive in Talta Village, the home of the main characters Shu, Kluk, and Jiro, who just looks like the Great Saiyaman. When the clouds arrive, the other villagers seek shelter, and Shu and Jiro slow down the land shark. After encountering some trouble, Kluk saves them. Together, the three trap the land shark in a net, but it breaks free and rushes away. The land shark stops in an ancient ruin that Shu, Kluk, and Jiro explore. They discover that the land shark is actually a machine called a mechat. It comes to life and sails into the sky, carrying the three friends with it, and they arrive at a giant base in the clouds. They're tossed into the throne room of the leader Nene. The friends battle Nene, but they're easily defeated and thrown out of the base, but a beam of light catches them and brings them back. The party finds three small spheres in the middle of the room, and a mysterious voice tells them to swallow the spheres. When they do, a strange transformation happens to each of them, changing the forms of their shadows into powerful beings.
It burns! I'm dying!
It hurts! I don't think this was such a good idea!
My shadow! Mine too!
What's going on here?
This game is just Persona with DBZ art, bro. Lost Odyssey. Lost Odyssey was developed by FieldPlus and planned by Mistwalker for the Xbox 360. It was published by Microsoft in 2007 in Japan and 2008 in the West. The story follows one of a select group of immortals who have lost their memories. While confronting threats generated by the world's approaching magical industrial revolution, he must also face the pain brought by his returning memories. The first discussion surrounding Lost Odyssey began in 2003, with development beginning the following year. After running into some problems, FieldPlus was established as a dedicated studio to work on the game. The story was written once again by the legendary Hironobu Sakaguchi and Japanese author Kiyoshi Shigematsu, who is one of the best-selling authors in Japan. Sakaguchi wanted to create a story that focused on evoking human emotions, and he wanted to keep gameplay within genre traditions so that he could experiment with the story. Even though the game went through a difficult development, it received great reviews, with Famitsu giving it a score of 36 out of 40. The main issue critics took with the game was its deliberately old-school mechanics. Never trust the critics. Cosmic Fantasy. Cosmic Fantasy is a series of games created by manga artist Kazuhiro Ochi, whose work you have seen even if you don't know it yet. Cosmic Fantasy was published by Telenet and developed by their subsidiary Lasersoft from 1990 to 1994. The series consists of 4 games for the PC Engine CD console, with the last one being split into 2 installments. The first 2 games were re-released as Cosmic Fantasy Stories, an upgraded compilation for the Sega CD developed by Riot. The series has themes of sci-fi, adventure, raunchy comedy, and light erotica. It's notable for being one of the earlier RPGs to feature extended anime-style cutscenes and voice acting. At the beginning of 2024, Limited Run came to the rescue, releasing Cosmic Fantasy Collection in North America. It features new English translations for the first 2 games. HDlight. The only reason I've even heard of this game is because I saw the Angry Video Game Nerd video.
Reflex like you're about to puke. HDlight! Sounds so wretched and foul. Maybe it's pronounced HDlight, but who knows? And who even knows what the fuck it means?
HDlight is an action RPG developed and published by T&E Soft for the NEC PC 6001 and PC 8801 computers in 1984 in Japan only. Ports for the MSX, MSX2, FM7, and NEC PC 9801 were released in the following year. And since only a total of 8 people combined own any of those systems, a Famicom version was released under the name HDlight Special in Japan in 1986. 3 years later, it was localized and released in English regions for the NES. The game sold 2 million copies in Japan across all platforms. The game's creator, Tokihiro Naito, had an idea to mix action and RPG elements into a new action RPG genre, Paladin's Quest. Paladin's Quest, or Linus in Japan, was developed by a company named Copia System. It was their first RPG. Before Linus, they had a racing game named Power Drift that featured a full 360-degree axis. It was the first kart racer, and it set the template for more popular kart racers like Mario Kart. I know it's not relevant, but I'm just saying, put some respect on these guys' names.
Nigga, when my name come up, respect it. Let's go. Stop playing with my fucking name. All 3 of y'all, stop playing with my name. I ain't gonna say it no more. Put some respect on my name. You understand me? When y'all saying my name, put some respect on it.
The plot centers on a boy named Chesney who, on a dare, activates an ancient machine called Dahlgren and releases a being of immense power and evil. As a result, the magic school is destroyed, and the headmaster orders Chesney to destroy Dahlgren at whatever cost before it destroys the world. The player travels through dungeons, towns, and an overworld map, battling in random encounters. In battles, the game switches to first person. The magic system has no form of MP for characters. Instead, the characters cast spells by spending their own HP. This game only has one healing spell, and using it kills the caster of that spell. Paladin's Quest, or Linus, or whatever you want to call it, received mixed to negative reviews. GamePro commented that the game feels rather stale. Its dialogue, story, transitions, settings, and even its gameplay seem to have been done before. Arcana. Arcana was released for the Super Nintendo in 1992 and was developed by HAL Laboratory. The game represents all of its characters as cards, but plays like a dungeon crawling RPG rather than a card-based game. The death of a character results in a torn card, and the magical properties of some cards are used to explain the abilities of characters. The game's dungeons and towns are navigated through a first-person perspective with a few exceptions. Battles in the game are portrayed in first person as well, displaying the protagonist characters along the perimeter of the screen with the enemies in the center. The battles aren't graphically intensive, and the character animations are limited to 5 frames at the most. Most players agree that the map's tile-based dungeons are the most challenging aspect of the game. The player can only see what is immediately before them, and is free to move around in the 4 primary compass directions. The dungeons are mostly labyrinthine in design, and the player will often run into dead ends. The detail in the dungeon's artwork makes up for the lack of animation. I was going to talk about the plot of the game a little bit, but it's just the same medieval fantasy hoopla that you've heard 1,000 times before. Fossil Fighters. Fossil Fighters is a trilogy of games for the DS and 3DS, with the first 2 being developed by 4 companies: Nintendo SPD, Red Entertainment, M2, and ArtDink, and the final game developed by Spike Chunsoft. The first game released in 2008, the second in 2010, and the final in 2014. The gameplay revolves around digging up and extracting dinosaur fossils and reviving them into supernatural Vivasaurs to engage in battle. The player goes into dig sites and collects fossils, each of which contain 1/4 of a dinosaur's skeleton, head, body, arms, or legs. The fossils are scanned and cleaned at a revival machine and then incorporated into a Vivasaur. Vivasaurs with the head fossil integrated are used in turn-based combat against opposing Vivasaurs. Up to 3 of the player's Vivasaurs may challenge up to 3 of an opponent's. Each team has access to 1 attack zone, 2 support zones, and 1 escape zone. The basic strategy is to use attacks with an attack zone Vivasaur, while support zone Vivasaurs give statistical bonuses to your own Vivasaur or penalties to the opponent. Fossil Fighters uses a system of elemental balance where each Vivasaur has an elemental affinity. Fire is weak to water, water is weak to air is weak to earth, and earth is weak to fire. The neutral element has no strengths or weaknesses, and the legendary element, which is only granted to the player in special circumstances, functions identically to the neutral element. Custom Robo. Custom Robo was developed by Noise and published by Nintendo for the N64 in December 1999. The protagonist receives a custom Robo called Ray on their birthday, and that inspires them to battle opponents, to collect parts, and become a custom Robo master. The player moves through various scenes and settings while interacting with other characters to battle or gain information. At the beginning of a battle, the player changes the direction of a robo cannon that launches the robot into the arena as a cube. In order to open the robo, the player must quickly press buttons and directions on the control stick. The player may have more or less difficulty opening the robo, depending on what side the cube lands. The game went on to have 4 sequels, with only the 2 most recent entries being released in North America. Custom Robo Battle Revolution was released in 2004 for the GameCube, still developed by Noise. The game received mixed reviews at the time, but in retrospect, the game has been praised and is frequently featured in Best GameCube Games lists. Custom Robo Arena released in 2007 in North America for the DS. It's actually the only game for the DS to feature a 2-player mode with the Nintendo Wi-Fi connection, including voice chat, multi-card play, and DS download play. Little Town Hero. This may actually be the most recent game to be released on this entire iceberg. Little Town Hero was developed and published by Game Freak. That's right, it's the Pokemon people. It was released for the Switch in October 2019 before being ported to PS4, Xbox One, and Windows in 2020. The critics gave it mixed to negative reviews. I guess that's what happens when Game Freak tries to make an RPG without the Pokemon marketing cheat code. I guarantee if this game had Pokemon in the title, it would have sold 10 million copies on the weekend that it was released. The protagonist is an adventurous young man named Axe. He wants to see the world outside of the town he grew up in, but the town's citizens forbid everyone from leaving as they consider the outside world dangerous. Everything changes when a large monster invades the town, threatening the villagers who have never seen monsters before. Axe discovers a mysterious stone within the coal mine, and he finds himself able to harness the power of Eureka, or ideas given form. He drives back the monster, and with his newfound power, Axe sets off on a journey to uncover the hidden secrets of the town. The game does have a quality soundtrack, with it being composed by Undertale developer Toby Fox. Rhapsody: A Musical Adventure. Rhapsody is a tactical RPG developed and published by Nippon Ichi Software for the PS1. It was released in 1998. and a version for the Nintendo DS was released in 2008. The game was released for the Switch as part of the Penny Presents NES Classics Volume 3 compilation. Rhapsody and its sequels are considered musical RPGs. This is a term that I've never heard in my life, but it means that in place of FMV cutscenes, there are musical numbers complete with vocals. The game is also known for its overwhelming cuteness and low level of difficulty. There are random encounters in this game, like a lot of JRPGs of the time, but unlike most of those games, the player can save at any time except during battle. The battles tend to last less than a minute, with the exception of boss battles, making this game truly unique from other tactical RPGs. Magical Vacation. Magical Vacation was released on December 7th, 2001, and was a Japanese exclusive for the Game Boy Advance. The game was developed by Brownie Brown, now known as 1UP Studio Incorporated, who you may recognize for games like Fantasy Life and the more recent 3D Mario titles. There are 16 different elements in the game. Each is stronger and weaker against another element, kind of like an 8-dimensional game of rock, paper, scissors, but the love element is not stronger or weaker than any other element. The dark element is stronger than all other elements except for love and light, and the light element has no weakness. I think I see the meta here. The game is set in the kingdom of Kovomaka, where a war erupted for 3 days. The war was kept a secret from ordinary citizens, but one man began to travel around the country to prepare for the next battle, and several years later, the game's main character was invited to join the magic school, Will-O-Wisp Academy. The protagonist has had the ability to see and interact with spirits since he was young, and was ostracized because of this ability. The students of Will-O-Wisp Academy are sent to a summer school called Valencia Beach, despite warnings that several students from the school had gone missing on the beach in the past. At night, strange monsters called the Enigma appear on the beach, abducting the students and sending them to another world. The protagonist must find the missing students while uncovering the mysteries of the Enigma and the war that occurred in the kingdom. A sequel named Magical Star Sign was released in 2006 for the Nintendo DS, and it did see an American release. I'll never understand why they kept giving us sequels back in the day without ever giving us the original game. In Magical Star Sign, the player uses the DS touchscreen for character control and interaction, while the top screen displays maps and other general information. All characters in the game are associated with a specific planet, and their magic power is boosted when a character's planet is positioned favorably. Teranigma. Teranigma was developed by Quintet and published by Enix for the Super Nintendo in 1995, with manga artist Kamui Fujiwara as the character designer. This one is a W for the Eurocucks since it was never released in the States, Japan, and PAL regions only. Teranigma is an action RPG and tells the story of Earth's resurrection at the hands of a boy named Ark and its progress from the evolution of life to the present day. The game is considered the third and final entry in an unofficial trilogy of RPGs developed by Quintet, including Soul Blazer and Illusion of Gaia. The game received critical acclaim for its presentation, gameplay, and story, but was criticized for its difficulty. Tonolo. The Tonolo games were developed by Gust, who we talked about in the last video for their Atelier series, and in collaboration with Bonpresto. The series consists of 3 games released between January 26, 2006 and January 28, 2010. The series is set on a planet called RCL, which lost its land in a man-made catastrophe long ago. The games are a work of science fantasy that depict the interaction between the protagonist and the heroines. The heroines are generally members of a race called Ravatail, which can use a special ability called Song Magic. The games introduce the usage of Song Magic in battle that has become unique to the Tonolo series, and even though the depiction of its usage varies greatly from one game to another, it has a few common elements throughout the series. The party is composed by vanguards and heroines. The vanguards must protect the heroines as they sing the Song Magic, as Song Magic displays stronger effects the longer the heroines sing it. The game has its own constructed language known as Hymnos, and it's present throughout the materials that form the series and is used as part of the dialogue in the games, as well as some of the songs heard in most audio releases related to the series. The language has a detailed vocabulary and set of grammar rules that can be read in detail at the official Japanese site, which can be used as a guide to translate all phrases written in Hymnos to Japanese. This information has also been translated by fans for English-speaking audiences, but there has been no official English translation.